If you don't have the experience in care, you would be a fool to do it without a franchise.
They were trying to put me off quite a lot in the sense that, are you sure you want to do this?
Some of the questions were questions I hadn't asked myself, things around mental strength. I love those questions, really. They're not here just for my money. They want someone who's going to be a success.
Ken's paragraph was, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Take your time, do it once and do it right.
From the start, it was made quite clear this is not a passive business. You will have to get involved. That's exactly what we wanted.
There were going to be lots of ups and downs. It's emotional when you lose your first client.
It's just natural human emotion.
It was my dad. The care that he received was awful. If I can treat our clients better than the way he was treated, hopefully he would be proud of us.
We want to sort of make our own destiny, if you like. We don't want to get to retirement age and work so hard and then not enjoy it. When I'm having a really tough day, the thing that kind of picks me back up again is you get a phone call from a client telling you what an amazing job you're doing.
It does require a lot of hours in the beginning, but it's a startup of a different breed, a vulnerable sector of society, often labelled as the forgotten. You can't really make big mistakes here because it affects people's lives.
From the outset, it looks huge, but actually when you tackle it task by task, it's achievable.
Hello and welcome to the Right at Home Franchise podcast. We're talking to 4 franchisees today about the early stages of building their franchise businesses. Each franchisee gives an honest account of some of the challenges that they have faced in establishing their businesses. They talk us through how they tackled those challenges and coming through the other side.
So my name's Nikesh. I've been going for nearly 6 years. We opened in March 2017. And we've got the Barnet and Edgware territory, which is in northwest London.
I'm Vicky, Butler. My husband and I have got the franchise on the Isle of Wight. So we've got the whole territory, which is amazing. So plenty of scope to grow. And we've been going for about 18 months now.
I'm Paul, Vicky's better half. Also on the other way.
Hi, I'm Darshan, and I've been trading for 11 months now. And I have a territory in northwest London. It's the Camden and Hampstead territory, so neighbour to Nikesh.
Perfect, great stuff. So we'll start with Darshan this time. What were you doing before you found Right at Home?
I have always been in the world of finance. So prior to Right at Home, I was a finance director for a marketing agency in Tower Hill.
Fantastic. How about yourself, Paul?
I was in manufacturing. Been in manufacturing for a long time since I left the army. Ended up middle management. That's where I met Vicky, my wife. She was working in finance in the same company. Yeah, that's about it.
Perfect. Good stuff.
So I'm an accountant. So I used to be in private practice and many years ago opened my own practice. So I have started a business before. So I understand some of the challenges. Then I went into manufacturing, was head of finance for a couple of companies on the Isle of Wight. And then we fancied to do something completely different, wanted to work together, wanted to start up our own business. So we started looking.
So just picking up on that point, obviously you mentioned you started a business that wasn't a franchise previously. How did you find that experience kind of in comparison the first, say, 6-12 months versus the reality of a franchise?
It was completely different because I knew what I was doing in my previous one. So I started a chartered accountancy firm and that's all I knew. It was very tough though, because it was just myself and a partner. So we only had each other to kind of rely on. Whereas starting the franchise was terrifying because we knew nothing about care other than a bit of personal experience. But we have just had so much support from the network, and we've been really lucky with our business support manager. She's amazing. So you feel like you've got a lot more support through a franchise for sure. I think you just couldn't do it if you don't have the experience in care. You would be a fool to do it without a franchise.
Yeah, brilliant. I will definitely dig into that a little bit more as we go along. Nikesh, tell me about your.
So my background was in banking and technology. Worked for quite a few of the investment banks in London and Canary Wharf, which I really enjoyed. But it got to a point where I was getting a little bit stale and not so interested in what I was doing. And had a personal experience when my mum needed care that wasn't so positive. And drawing from that, me and my wife decided to do something in this industry, something where we could really make a difference with more of a quality service. Looked at franchising in other industries. We had a franchise with a gym franchisor. I won't give the name.
Okay, fair enough.
As that went on, it took quite a while for us to get a site and open. And unfortunately, by the time we were ready to open, the marketplace had changed significantly. It was much more saturated in our view. And the risks were a lot higher. The initial investments was hundreds of thousands of pounds. And then we decided to focus on home care with Right at Home instead.
Fantastic. Good stuff. Darshan, when you were researching kind of the options out there, obviously found Right at Home, what were your expectations around being a franchise owner with Right at Home? And since you've obviously sort of got going, has the reality met with what those expectations were?
Yeah, I'll answer the second question first, and I'll say 100% yes. The expectations have been matched, and you know. And I knew that because my journey with Right at Home started around 2 years before I actually, signed on, and we had a delay because of COVID. And so even from the first step of speaking with Kate, I straight away understood that this approach was going to be a very patient approach, and it was going to involve a lot of due diligence from both sides. And some of the questions that were posed to me from Kate and Ken, were questions maybe I hadn't even asked myself. Mm-hmm. Things around mental strength and do you have the work ethic, and have you thought about what it would be like to be running a business at your age with such a young family? And so and I love those questions really, because it really showed to me that actually they're not here just for my money. And they want someone who's going to be a success. And then obviously COVID happened, and it was Ken who actually phoned me personally and said, look, I think you should not give up your job just now. You've got a young family, and I don't want you to start this under this kind of stress. Wow. So hit the pause button.
Real reassurance.
Exactly. I think most other people or most other franchisors would have probably, I'm not sure if they would have given that advice, because it is a business for them as well, and they obviously want to make some money. I'm not sure how many people would tell their investors or stakeholders, oh, actually pause, don't give me money just yet. Mm-hmm. So obviously when I started, I already knew what the ethos was within national office, how Ken works, how Lucy and Kate work, and so it definitely matched my expectations. Yes.
Fantastic. Same question to yourselves, Vicky and Paul. Sort of, what were your expectations, and has it met those expectations? Yes,
definitely. So we didn't have to wait as long as Darshan. So we were a bit later when we first approached the franchise. Okay. But I completely agree with what Darshan said. We were very much told to take our time. Ken's paragraph was, what was it he said? It's a marathon, not a sprint. Yeah. Which he said many times to me, because I was like eager to go, and I'm like, oh, can we start now? Can I leave? Can I have my notice in? Please let me leave work. And they were very much like, no, the time's not right yet. You've got to do this. Get things in order. Paul and I also wanted to start the business together from day one. But the advice was, one of you would really benefit from carry on working, mm-hmm. just so you don't have that added pressure of the sort of financial, everything on one business.
Yes.
Just because they understand it does take time for it to get going. And it was the best advice. So we were thinking it would probably be a year or 18 months that Paul would then join. And after 8 months, he was able to join us. So it was fantastic. Yeah. And he did lots in the background anyway. I mean, like, not even in the background. You were in most days, really.
Yeah.
Because he worked shift work.
Right.
So he managed to
Before
sort of
work or after work, I was in trying to catch up or do what I could, run errands or whatever really.
Yeah, but no, it was very much take your time, do it once and do it right.
Yeah.
And the support we get from National Office has far exceeded our expectations. We had so much support at the start from Annabelle, who was doing recruitment, and she found our registered manager, which was incredible because obviously 2 people going into care who know nothing don't know what you need in a registered manager. So to have National Office and compliance interviewed them to make sure the right skills were there.
Brilliant.
And then obviously for us, it was the personality fit with her. So yeah, from day one, Kate has been fantastic, always keeping in touch, letting us know we're not been forgotten about. It's just not the right time.
Fantastic.
So yeah, really good.
And what were some of the sort of tasks that you would get involved with, kind of Paul, when in that sort of initial 8 months before you were sort of full time in the business?
A lot of recruitment, writing up the adverts, making the graphics for the adverts, doing videos for digital marketing. Excuse me. Just any way I could help try and alleviate some stress from Vicky.
And I don't have a creative bone in my body, so Paul
complementary
was
skills.
Paul was in charge of like all the social media stuff
Yeah.
and the things I don't understand.
But clearly doing a lot right, because am I right in thinking first CQC?
Inspection, outstanding in 3 out of the 5 domains, which was just...
How did that make you feel?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Didn't really believe
blew my mind, really.
Yeah.
It's nice to know that all of our efforts have been recognised. And it just confirms we are in this for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And thankfully we are doing a good job.
Okay.
Because we're still... like a proud mum.
Oh, how nice. That's so nice. That is so nice, isn't it? To get that feeling. That's fantastic. And how about you, Nikesh? Obviously, you're a bit further down the road now. You've been going a little bit longer. Thinking back to when you were looking for kind of what comes next, found Right at Home, have your expectations and reality kind of aligned?
Yeah, I'll try and think back six odd years.
I can't remember what I had for breakfast. So if you can remember that, I'm very impressed.
I actually spoke to another home care franchisor probably a year before I spoke to Right at Home, in between the gym franchise. So I was exploring options basically. Sure. And the feeling I got from that franchisor was very different to when I spoke to Right at Home. Both on the quality care side of franchising. They seemed a lot more transactional, as in, you pay the fee and this happens and that happens, where the approach from Right Home from the start was, and something I'm grateful for now especially, is they were quite, they were trying to put me off quite a lot, in the sense that, are you sure you want to do this? It's tough, it's not easy, there'll be challenges. They didn't feel like they were trying to sell me anything basically, and it was quite a slow process agreeing with everything that's been said before. So there was no pressure there, and that really resonated with me. And I thought, to deliver a quality service, this is the kind of support I'm going to need going, for the marathon and not the sprint. So yeah, from the start it's been that way, and ongoing there's been ups and downs, as expected with any business, but I think the support has been great, continues to be great, and the support has evolved a lot, and I think that's important because things change quickly in business in general, and especially in home care. Technology is moving so quickly, but we're Right at Home are not waiting for things to happen; they're actually making things happen also, with input from the franchisees, which is important. So it doesn't feel like you're basically working for you're running your little office in isolation. You do feel part of a big network.
That's a really important point, because I think a lot of people view franchising as you've got this proven business format, but you sort of almost have to stay in your lane once you get going. But what you're saying is you found that to be a very collaborative relationship. The feedback is taken seriously.
And I think from the start, it was made quite clear this is not a passive business. Yep. So, property investment or whatever it may be, there are other forms of businesses that are more passive. This is, you will have to get involved. And that's exactly what we wanted. And like Vicky and Paul, my wife's, involved in the business now as well. She started off slowly like yourself as well, but she's, massive support, recruitment. And like you said, we complement each other. She's probably not as finance kind of aware, but she's much more creative than me. So that works.
Perfect balance. Sounds like the same as yourselves. Darshan, Vicky and Paul, I understand you all did your original training together. Is that right?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Talk me through kind of that experience, and also elaborate on how important it is kind of fostering those relationships with other franchisees within the network. Darshan first, if you don't mind.
Yeah, the 2 weeks we spent at National Office, I thought were brilliant. We were just coming out of lockdown actually. And so there's a good vibe around Liverpool for a start.
Freedom again. Yeah,
exactly. And so, I drove up obviously from London. I brought my Brompton with me in the back of the boot, and, every morning going for a good little bike ride along the river. And, but in terms of the training itself, the 2 weeks really, for me, it was validation that, I'm understanding, all the material that's being put in front of me, and I'm enjoying it. And I feel confident that I can execute this. And so it was a lot to take in for those 2 weeks. It was intense, but it was everything I was hoping for, really. Getting to understand and learn the right at home way, what high quality looks like, the importance of compliance. And I even enjoyed the psychometric tests that they did at the end. And actually I thought it came out quite accurate. At the time, I was a little bit, deflated a little. I think mine was, the recommendation or the advice that I was given was, slow down in your decision making, slow down how you approach things, because you will be too fast for the business to keep up.
Okay.
And it was 100% true.
I was going to say, is that?
Yeah, because we definitely signed on too many clients too fast.
Okay.
And I mean, not that you would say no, but, my registered manager did say we need to maybe slow down or tell them there's a bit of a waiting list. And I said, no, we're going to start this right now. And we did have to play catch up, I would say, for a good 4 months, which is a long time when you've only been training for 11 months. Mm-hmm. So that was good. And in terms of fostering relationships, I mean, it's fantastic. I'm quite close to Jag. He lives in Stanmore. I live in Stanmore. And, I catch up with Mahi every now and then. And I catch up to Vicky and Paul over email as well every so often. And it's just good learning, what each of us are doing differently.
Sure.
Because obviously our demographics are very different. Vicky and Paul are in Isle of Wight. So you learn that their success, the marketing success, comes more from maybe, doing some leaflet drops and, being present in person. Whereas in London, obviously, it's a bit more around Google ads and, leaflet drops aren't as successful. And so, you wouldn't get to learn that really if you didn't foster relationships. And so I think that's been really valuable. So I think that training was it was very intense, but it was a good validation for me, because I understood the material and I bought into, the material, the high quality, the, material that Right at Home were providing, and the high quality care that they, obviously expecting. Going through modules around compliance, was very important to me because I had no idea around compliance. I was fairly comfortable when it came to marketing and when it came to business development, when it came to finance, obviously. But the one area where, I have no experience was compliance. So reading over that just kind of told me what I need to expect from my staff, what I need to expect from my registered manager, and obviously the right culture I need to, instill from day zero, really. And then, yes, of course, I think, the second part of what was really important about, the 2 weeks training was fostering relationships with, other people coming into the business. So, I'm pretty close with Jag, who lives quite local to myself, and his office is in Bedford. And, we talk probably on a weekly basis. And I also catch up with Mahi, who's in Uxbridge, and Vicky and Paul. And we get to learn about things that are working for each other and things that are not. Different things around, what marketing activities is bringing them success. And then it kind of, forces me to question whether would this work for myself or would it not. And naturally, there's going to be ideas you've never thought of. So being able to, approach your peers, and especially those who've been in training with you, it's like, you're more likely to approach someone who's been in the same school class as you than someone who's maybe a year or two above you, right?
Sure, yeah.
So
you've got that relationship.
exactly. So
Yeah.
I feel very comfortable picking up the phone to, all of the franchisees who are in the class, or in that, I call it class now, but in that 2 weeks training in Liverpool with me, and I get the feeling that it's, they'd feel the same as well, that level of comfortability.
Fantastic. Do you agree with that? Do you feel the same?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
It was an
definitely.
intense 2 weeks. I can't believe it was 2 weeks, but yeah, intense, but it's so informative, and you just get an idea of how great it really could be. You get snippets of, because you learn about the other offices, what they're doing, how they're dealing with certain issues. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was a great experience, and like I say, fostering relationships. I think every year we go to the owners' conference, and the first thing Vicky and I say is, right, let's go and find Darshan, let's go and find Jack, let's go and find Mahi, let's go and see how they're getting on. So, yeah, it's really nice.
The opportunity to catch up, discuss challenges, best practice,
best practices. I think problems is probably the first thing that I like to address. It's like, oh, have you had these issues, and how have you gone about it? And then you move on to, all right, what's working well and what's not, and just having that informal, really transparent, candid conversation. That's only possible if you've cultivated a relationship and fostered that relationship, especially, I would say, with those who are in the same training as myself. Because I guess, again, you form that bond over those 2 weeks, and you kind of know what you're both going through, or have been going through, because you've started the journey at a similar time.
Fantastic. And you mentioned, Darshan, the first port of call is kind of the challenges that you face, the problems that you've overcome. Can you give me an example or two of some of the early stage challenges that you've come across? What have they been? How have you approached them? How have you tackled them?
It's for me, I think it's always has been, and I think it's better now, but it's carers letting you down.
Okay.
So in the beginning, you're not going to hire, as many carers as you need, because you might only have 1 or 2 clients if you're lucky. And so for that, you probably think, I've got a registered manager as a backup, and maybe I hire another 1 or 2 carers who can do the call. And if that carer lets you down, and your registered manager might not be available, or she might be with another client, you're left in a really, really, precarious situation where, maybe I can, do the call myself. But sometimes, I would say 98% of my clients are female, and they probably don't want a male carer come in. And so there's been, sleepless nights for sure, that I know that a carer has just informed us that she can't do the weekend, and the weekend's approaching, and I haven't quite found a solution. And so, I would, not necessarily pick up the phone to get a solution from another franchisee, but sometimes it's just nice to get it off your chest and just talk about, maybe what mistake you made when you were doing the hiring process, and, what can you do differently? And as you're having that conversation, they just give you a different perspective. And that allows you to find, maybe a solution for the immediate problem, or it just allows you to find a solution for ongoing. and how you can maybe screen better. So yeah, caregivers letting me down in the beginning was, I would say, one of the biggest issues I had.
Was that replicated in your experiences, or did you have different sort of challenges at the startup stage?
I think for us it was probably more. I'm a warrior, so you get a you get a client or you get two clients. You want carers, but you don't. It's quite hard as Darshan said, in the early stages, it's quite hard to attract the right caliber of carer because you are limited on the number of hours you can offer. And you don't know when you're going to get your next client coming in. So you we probably held back a bit too much at the start and didn't take that leap of faith and start, recruit in force, really. But having said that, because of that, myself and my manager did probably 90% of the care in the early days. And although it possibly made us a little bit slower on getting the business moving forward, it certainly taught me so much because I hadn't done care before. So I've done my care certificate that all the girls do that come to join us. I've been there. I've got to know the clients. I've seen the day-to-day things that our team have to do, and I think it's just given me a much better basis, a better foundation for when we employ people now, because I know what's expected of them. I know what it's like to do 10-hour days going in and out of calls, and I think it has actually been a blessing, although we did grow slower at the start because of it. So yeah, mine was probably more, and I think it's an ongoing trend. It's a seesaw between having enough staff to get enough hours, to get enough clients to give to the staff for their hours in it. You're just constantly, you need carers, you need clients, you need carers, you need clients. It's just
absolutely.
Constant.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember because that issue I had about, carer let me down and then another carer was sick.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go gung-ho in my recruitment now. So I hired like 5-6 carers. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't have enough work for them. And then I've got carers calling me up saying, Darshan, you promised me that, you're going to give me really good hours and you're going to be really nice clients. And so that's that seesaw that Vicky's talking about. Then you have to appease them, ask them for their patience, ask them for their trust. And it takes time. But, I think one thing I've learned is, follow the process, speak, look at the success that other franchisees are having, and, you'll get there. But first 6 months pretty hairy.
I think that awareness that you'll never be able to match it up perfectly in terms of clients and caregivers is so fluid. The industry, you may unfortunately lose a client, goes into care home or other circumstances, or caregivers availability changes, or it is quite fluid. So it's always the best attempt to, and we always talk about in the office, like obviously we're recruiting and we're recruiting caregivers and we're also trying to attract new clients all the time. But what's the main focus at any one given point, period of time? So this month, is the focus on client acquisition, or is it recruitment? Is it compliance? So it's not that we ignore everything else, but where is the gap? Because say, for example, if we just follow the industry in the sense that everyone's saying, okay, recruitment is the issue, let's all get on recruitment, we often find ourselves, we have the staff and now we haven't got enough clients.
Yeah.
But then if we can't give the staff we have enough hours, as we were saying, they will look elsewhere, and rightly so. So we have to be aware of the whole and take a step back and look at the bigger picture, I guess. Or where do we need to prioritize, I guess.
Fantastic. And is that your way of kind of keeping the faith when things do get challenging, maybe get a bit much? Is it taking a step back, trying to think bigger picture, or is there any other techniques that
think bigger picture and think out of the box, I think. So let's go for the example where we've lost a few clients in a short period of time, which does happen as well. Mm-hmm. And that's a learning experience. First time it happens, you're kind of taken aback a bit, but you get used to that, the peaks and troughs. But the example where we've lost a client or so, and all of a sudden the caregiver doesn't have enough work. Potentially they can come into the office and we can upskill them on some training, such as auditing. They might be able to help in the community or do leaflet drops. So just keeping an open mind and understanding, I guess, that obviously the caregivers need a certain amount of income. They have, their commitments. So understanding where they're coming from as well, if they are looking for other opportunities. Yeah.
Fantastic. What about yourself, Darshan? What kind of motivates you and helps you keeping the faith when times are getting tough?
Yeah, it's a really good question. You know, I ask my caregivers the same question: what motivates you when recruiting? And I think I am very money driven, for sure. You know, it's probably why I fell into finance after I graduated. Probably why I studied economics and then fell into finance, and then, I decided to join care industry for two primary reasons. Obviously there was definitely that feeling inside me that I wanted to have more of an impact in society, and be able to create something of a legacy, and also, in addition to that was, how can I create something that will offer me a bit more freedom when I'm a little bit older, and allow me to be spending more time with my family, say when I'm, in my 50s, for example, as opposed to still, working my way up or being, very high up on a corporate ladder. And so what motivates me for sure is being able to get to that point of freedom. I know it's going to be, maybe at least 10 to 15 years from today, but obviously it's got to start now. So that's my motivation. That I think about the lifestyle that I want to live, when I guess my children are, graduating from university, for example, what's the lifestyle I want?
How about yourselves, Paul and Vicky? Have you got the same motivators, or are you motivated in different ways?
For me, it was my dad, the reason why we got into this. So my dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at the age of 64. He passed away, it's got to be 3 years ago now, and the care that he received was awful. It was our first experience of care homes, first experience of Alzheimer's. I can remember when my dad told me that he's been diagnosed, I was like, oh, don't worry, it'll be fine. I didn't understand what it was. But the care that he received was just terrible. He got moved from care home to care home because they couldn't cater for his needs. In the end, he had a full-time one-to-one with him in the care home. So for me, my motivation is if I can treat our clients better than the way he was treated, then we're doing something right. And hopefully he would be proud of us.
Yeah, and I think from that, it's sort of Paul's dad worked so hard all of his life, paid into pensions, paid off the mortgage, was diagnosed before he even got to retirement age. So as well as the sort of wanting to do something to make a difference to people's lives, it made us reevaluate what we wanted, because we both worked crazy hours in corporate businesses. You didn't know who you were making your money for, and you just think you do all of this, and you don't know how long you're going to be here for. So for us, it was kind of like, we want to do something together. We want to sort of make our own destiny, if you like. So that was pretty much what prompted us. We don't want to get to retirement age and have worked so hard and then not enjoy it. So this will give us an opportunity, a bit like Darshan says, hopefully slightly younger, to retire if we work really, really hard, and then we can actually sort of enjoy the benefit of it. I think that's longer term. And then sort of, for me, shorter term motivations, when I'm having a really tough day, or we've lost a client or whatever it might be, the thing that kind of picks me back up again is you get a phone call from a client or from a family member of a client telling you what an amazing job you're doing, or you get a carer come in and tell you that she's in her own time pop round with some homemade food for one of our clients. And it's the little things, it's the lovely little things that you just don't get in a normal job, and you don't get the same self-worth that you get in care, I don't think. Yeah.
Great answers. Thank you for sharing that as well. At the very core of Right at Home is community. Nikesh, what do you do to engage with, integrate within, and effectively contribute to your local community, and how does that translate into a business context?
So initially, when we started up, we held quite a few sessions, which were just basically, I wouldn't say educating, but bringing awareness to certain topics, such as dementia, and how to, in some ways, deal with those situations. Unfortunately, in our community, often when someone is going through that, I think the community, especially, it's what we saw from the outset. We didn't want to be a huge care provider that everyone knows the name of but doesn't know the people. We wanted to be the family-run, friendly, good quality care provider that, the owner knows every client, the owner knows every caregiver, and it's, a community feel to it.
Darshan, will come to you with the same question. So community is at the heart of Right at Home. How do you integrate within yours, and how does that translate?
The first community I really wanted to help were the carers. And so I wanted to make sure that, I took away that stigma that's attached with care, that it's not well paid. Carers or people in the sector are not looked after. So the first thing I did was join up to be a living wage employer, and making sure that, the carers are getting at least the London weighted salaries. But, I went above and beyond that and was 10% higher than that. And then was to introduce certain perks and benefits, that carers don't get elsewhere. Mm-hmm. So, that one of them has been going out on a quarterly meal with them. And whether it's going bowling or for a meal or going to a nice fancy restaurant where, maybe normally they wouldn't go. And so the feedback from that has been, I was blown away because, in fact, every single carer said that they haven't been a company that's done that for them. Really spending, Christmas, having a Christmas meal with them and, doing, opening presents and, sharing different ideas and just making sure everyone was, happy, and the managing director is also present. It's not just left to the registered manager. So I think carers was the heart, because, there's that famous business triangle where you have kind of like shareholders at the top, and then you have managers or directors at the middle, and then you have your workers. And I think it was Richard Branson, he kind of inversed it. And he said, if at the top, you have staff, then you have middle management, and then I think it was inversed. At the top, you have your staff, and then you have your clients, and then you have your shareholders. And so, and I guess what he was saying was, if you look after your staff and your staff are happy, naturally that will move on to the clients, and the clients will be happy. And if the clients are happy, then the shareholders will be happy. So the first people you have to look after in the pyramid are your staff. And so that really stuck with me for quite a few years. And I always said to myself, if one day I ever do start my own business, that's how I'm going to approach it. So I like to think, my carers are very happy, and I like to think that they believe, or that they know that, other home care providers in the territory can't offer the same that we can. And so that's carers. And then obviously there's the other side where, it's community. So it's about making sure that, you if there's a dementia talk. So I had a dementia talk last week in the V&A Museum, and it was about, how do you create dementia friendly venues? And it's making sure that, you attend those types of events and make yourself known out there to the community. Know that you are there to help support them. And so we've attended quite a few of those. We're in Hampstead, obviously went to the V&A, and I've personally, since I started Right at Home, have become a trustee for a Henna Asians Women charity, and I've become a befriender for Jewish Care and a volunteer at Dementia Club UK. So I thought, I'm in here to provide care, so let me go do it myself through, as a volunteer. Yeah. And, let me start my journey at least, and the business can start its journey when the time's right. And the second reason was to learn, really. What does it take to be a good carer? What do people who have dementia expect from you? And just by doing that, really, I got to learn and know a lot more about my community, and other people who are in that community, who are also helping, the elderly as well. So I got to meet a lot of people that way as well. So community is and should be at the heart of everything.
Amazing. Thank you. That's really, really great insights. How about yourselves, Paul and Vicky, sort of community for yourselves on the Isle of Wight?
So we've done a few things. We, when the war started in Ukraine, we worked with a charity on the Isle of Wight called Mad Aid, and we became a drop-off point for collections. My manager thought it'd be a fabulous idea, so she came in and was like, okay, that's absolutely fine. So I'll do it all in my own time. I'll deliver everything to the place where that has to go. As soon as we'd put our name out there, we were absolutely bombarded. Our office was full, and I did no work for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Because it was just a constant stream of people coming in. Our office was absolutely chock-a-block with duvets, sheets, clothes,
couldn't
food.
even get to the printer.
It was ridiculous. So we basically, our job was on hold for 2 weeks, other than like the bare essentials of making sure that clients and carers were, okay. So that was one thing, and that got us quite sort of integrated within the community. The parish council came and joined to help, because we had to sort everything, pack it all up, arrange for it all to be delivered. So the Bembridge Friendship Circle gave us their minibus to help us load it. So it was a really nice kind of community event within the village. That was kind of our first thing that we did. Then we have set up a dementia afternoon tea club. So we wanted to kind of modernise the Alzheimer's Cafe idea. We just have an event once a month. We have different activities each month. The last one was amazing. So the Isle of Wight's got a donkey sanctuary, and they brought a donkey to our afternoon tea club, and it was just the best thing ever.
Bizarre, but
it was amazing. Everybody who came just absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And this donkey seemed to be able to sense when, for the people who had sort of more advanced dementia, and their faces when they actually sort of realised what it was just heartwarming. Like, me and my team were pretty much in tears through most of it, because it was just so sweet. But we've done all sorts. We've had singing groups come in.
Local primary schools come in and sung Christmas songs,
Yeah.
Harvest Festival songs,
Yeah,
something
Harvest
like that.
Festival.
We've got an event coming up where ability dogs are coming in. They're bringing some puppies.
I can't wait.
Over
Amazing.
to cuddle.
I'm gonna
So-
steal
Tell
dogs.
me when that is.
yeah. So they better count those puppies in, because there's going to be a few missing on the way out.
But yeah, that's just been amazing. So when we started the club, so we've been going six or 7 months, I think, with that now, haven't we? 6 months. And when we started, we had about, I think, 14 attendees. And now we're up to about 35. So it's really good. And it's people from the community. It's people from care homes. So some of the carers come along and bring some of the residents from the care homes. A couple of our own clients, but mainly it is people we wouldn't have met normally. So that's been amazing. And then our bright idea for this year, just to give us a little bit more work. Do you want to?
It's my mind's gone blank now. It's the Older Person's Good Living Show. So we're putting on a good living show where the older generations can come along and find out more information about what they can get up to in their spare time, the services that are available to them, people that provide, I was going to say home care then, but it's not home care. It's, say, people that come to the house and test their hearing, do their glasses prescription. Hairdressers, handymen that give special discounts to the older generation. Just anything that be good information from them.
Yeah.
And clubs they can join as well, like the Rotary Club. We've got a Ramblers Association on the Isle of Wight. I think they're going to be there trying to get some business, get some volunteers. But
So try and combat loneliness for people who can get out and about, and for those who can't, sort of making them aware of services that they can still have, even though they're in their own home. So it's that kind of thing.
That's
really
brilliant. Is that an idea that you could see working within your communities potentially?
Definitely. I think it would be a monster of a task to orchestrate, I think, because it's London. It's crazy. It's a crazy animal. But I think it's a great idea. So this is an initiative that you guys are running yourself,
patent pending.
and you're inviting other people to have a stall there. And
So we're going to have. We're holding it at. There's a Botanic Gardens, Ventnor Botanic Gardens. So anyone who comes along, as in the public, they come in for free, but they also get to have a walk around the gardens, which would be a nice thing for them to do as well. And then we're having between 25 and 30 stall holders. So one of our team, Paul mainly, and one of our team we all kind of did brainstorm to think what would be useful for people to have there. And then Paul and Lucy have been working tirelessly, phoning around, seeing who wants to come. And it's a not-for-profit event, so we're just getting them to cover the cost of the hall hire and some leaflets. But it should be a really good event. And obviously, it's good marketing as well.
Sounds
it is
brilliant.
good marketing for us too.
Yeah.
Imagine being the organisers of an event like this. That's going to be
Let's see how it goes
wonderful.
first.
Is that every week then? Is it?
Every Sunday.
Kind of think every 2 years.
Yeah, we were going to do it annually, and already Paul was earlier saying, maybe we'll do it
every two.
2 years.
Like the World
It's a
Cup,
lot
4
of
years.
work.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah,
But I think it will be.
it's a lot of work.
We've got a local paper who are supporting us, so they're going to do some editorials on it and come along to the event and do some stuff on that. So don't get me wrong, it's incredibly hard work, and we're not making any money from it. However, it is going to be good marketing. So
Of course.
and that is important too, as well as making a difference to the community. It's kind of two-sided, but it is hard work. As is the afternoon tea club. It's only once a month, but it just seems to take so much organising, doesn't it? Got one next week, so
Don't say that, because we're launching ours April 19th.
Are you?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
so-
What have you got for your first one?
So we're going down the arts route.
Oh,
actually.
nice.
So we've got someone coming in who's gonna, encourage, whilst they're doing artwork on like canvas, also a little bit of movement as well, with some music in the background.
Oh, lovely.
So yeah, but it's I think I've been told by my staff that if I take on any more projects until the summer, that they're going to shoot me basically.
Darshan, for someone that's exploring right at home, what would you say are the most important transferable skills to possess in terms of making it as a successful franchise owner?
I don't know if this falls into the category of skills, but I would say grit, for sure. And, I'm someone who, I have a lot of self-confidence, but this has really tested my confidence. And I'm glad it has, because now, 11 months in, I know what I'm made out of, but it would not have been possible if I didn't have grit and determination. And so, if that is a transferable skill, I'm not sure if it is. I'm not sure if it's something you can just develop overnight. With care, it does require a lot of hours in the beginning of your hours. It's a startup, but it's a startup of a different breed, because the mistakes are very costly.
Yeah.
You're looking after, a vulnerable, sector of society, often labeled as the forgotten, part of society. And so you can't really make big mistakes here, because it affects people's lives. And so it does require your all in the beginning, making sure you've got the right carers going in, making sure that they're fully trained, making sure you've got the systems in place in case something was to go wrong, and making sure you understand the medication a client needs to take, when they need to take it, what happens in an emergency. So in the beginning, it's just yourself, your registered manager, and maybe one or two carers. And so you're making, as a business owner, you've got a lot of responsibilities in the beginning. And, I was a little bit a fish out of water, I have to say, because I've never been in the care sector before. I don't know the language. Well, I didn't know the language. When you speak to the local authorities or CCG or CQC, if you have to report a problem, or how do you explain a client's needs to a carer in their language so they get it? How do you make sure the carer's understood the ins and out of a care plan? So in the beginning, it's so hands-on, and I don't think I would have survived it if I didn't have that pure determination and grit, because I think we all mentioned that there's plenty of ups and downs, and during those downs, it's your inner core self-confidence and work ethic that kind of gets you through it. And I think Ken had a really good quote that Lucy, shared with us at conference. And I don't want to. I might have got a little bit muddled around, but I think it was along the lines of mental strength is what separates the strong from the weak. Mm-hmm. And that really struck with me, because I think you do need a lot of mental strength in this sector to do it right.
Fantastic, thank you. Paul, Vicky, sort of in terms of skills that you need to be a successful franchisee, what would you put at the top of the list?
Do me to go?
Well, I was just going to say, because mine's going to be quite short and sweet, really. Hard graft.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't do this if you're not going to give it your all.
Can't dip a toe in the water and try.
No. But yeah, I left school with, not great qualifications at all. Joined the army at 16. But one thing I have done since I left school is I have worked my backside off and just hard graft. I've always been, I know what I want to do and I'm going to work hard at getting it.
Building on that, what would you add?
I think empathy is something you need an awful lot of. Everybody, not just clients but carers, everybody comes from completely different backgrounds, has completely different views on life, and you just cannot be judgmental. You have to actually take a step back and understand, and actually try and understand why people behave in a certain way. And you do get quite a selection of clients and staff, I think it's fair to say.
You need certain skills going in, definitely. I think resilience, grit, we could say grit, but also that awareness of how are you using your energy? Because there's always a lot to do, especially with a new business. And is it efficient? Again, this is not an exact science, and it's not just about driving efficiencies, but to be able to operate and sustain a business long term and support, have a family life and have everything else that you want as an individual, which is important, right? You need to balance things out. So I think that's important. And I think the other thing is, we talked about it, understanding people. And I think I've always been interested in mindset and, how the human mind works and neuroscience and these kind of things. More so now, just because of the work we do, because you're working with people day in, day out. And why did someone do that or say that? And, it gets you thinking, and then you try and put yourself in that situation. Was it something at home and it's just fascinating. And I think once you start to understand a bit more of that it's often, and that enables you not to take things personally, which I think is really important. I think especially in the early days, because when things go wrong, you might be like, oh, wow. Or, human nature is to compare. So there may be 3 or 4 offices I started off with, and all of a sudden they're doing great, and maybe we're not in such a great place. Why is that? Is it because of me? But I think it enables you to kind of separate yourself somewhat and not take things so personally, be it if you've lost a client or a caregiver. And I think that helps long term, because there'll be ups and downs. Definitely, yeah. Fantastic.
Thank you very much for that. Just throwing a question out there for all of you to sort of give your thoughts and input on. What would you say to someone sat at home on the tube, wherever they may be right now listening? What would you say to that person if they were exploring Right at Home, if they were exploring franchising? What should they do at that point? What research should they do? What does their family life need to look like? What sort of support do they have to have in place? What would you say to someone exploring franchising?
I'd say don't rush into anything. Do a lot of research. Contact different franchises. Obviously, this is the best one, but I think it's really important that you do test the water with everybody, because you don't know what's going to be the best fit for you, and just be prepared to work incredibly hard. There were going to be lots of ups and downs. it's emotional when you lose your first client. I personally found that incredibly difficult.
Devastating.
It is
Yeah.
awful. Absolutely broke my heart. And the second, but you do kind of become more resilient, I guess. Yeah.
It's devastating.
It's just natural human emotion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's difficult.
That's
'cause
the
you
thing I
get-
found the hardest.
You're quite attached.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
You get quite
you're not
attached.
meant to.
When I in a way, afterwards, I was glad I felt that way, because it kind of made me realize something a bit more about myself. Because I've never been in that situation before. If you lose a client in the corporate world, it's not great, obviously, but it's a financial loss, right? This is a bit more than a financial loss. You've lost
Someone you were helping, care
someone
and
you're
support
helping.
for.
You're
Yeah.
talking to their family or even to them, regularly. I'm very close with all of my clients, actually. And so, it was.
You do become very involved, don't you?
But then when I reflected and I said, I'm really glad I felt that. I felt really upset, and I'm glad I had, a little bit of a cry, because it means that it's validation. It's a big learning process for myself about who I am as a character. And it's one thing thinking, these are the reasons why I'm going into care, but then when you're in it, you need that validation. Am I doing this for the right reason? And so when you have a reaction like Vicky or myself, it's just kind of made me realize that I'm in it for the right reasons. It's obviously there's financial gain for sure. You'd be silly if you went into any business and not thinking about the financial gains. But the reason why I would say majority of us went into the care sector is also because of the caring side of it as well, and having that impact, making that difference. And if anyone didn't feel upset if their client passed, then I'd personally be very surprised.
But yeah, I don't think I thought of that side of it before we started, or even during the process. I think we were very much focused on how do you market it, how do you grow the business, where are you going to have your office, sort of all the practical things.
Sure.
And so I do think it is important that, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I personally, you get a lot of pride out of what you're doing, but you don't think of the emotional side, I don't think, when you're going into this. So that's something that kind of took me more by surprise, I suppose.
I think that's important as well, because it obviously you feel those emotions and human nature, but you still have to carry on the professional side of your business, and you can't just. So I find that as well with clients that pass away, or their needs increase and we lose them as a client. They may have to go into care home, or they just deteriorate, and it's painful. But at times I try and I process the emotion, and then I try and think, okay, how do professionals deal with this? If I was a doctor or a surgeon, and not to kind of disregard the emotion, feel it, but then also to move on, because otherwise it can just be you can just be so bombarded with that.
Yeah.
And there's things going in your with your caregivers as well in their personal life. So I think it's not to kind of box in a neat and kind of package, but that's kind of helped me, I think, to think of it that way, that this has happened and you feel bad, and that's natural. But then also, you own a business and you need to be professional as well, and things have to move on. So to keep that balance, because otherwise you can end up becoming a bit too.
Yeah, you're spot on. I think you got to compartmentalize all of your emotions. You can feel angry, happy, sad all at once in this industry.
Every 5 minutes.
Correct. And you've got to be able to compartmentalize it, and you've got to be able to show that emotion at the right time, right place. Because your staff don't necessarily need to see certain emotions when you're angry, because it's not going to be that uplifting or motivating for them.
Sure.
And so, I think Nikesh is right. You've got to find a place for it and just be able to process it.
Let's put on a happy face.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, always put on a happy face.
Nikesh, final couple of questions. What has been your proudest moment running your business, and what does Right at Home mean to you?
I think proudest moment, I would say, So we opened our office March 27th, 2017, which was my son's birthday as well, which is why I remember it so clearly. And I have this picture I was looking at just recently, where I've got my 3 kids, me and my wife, and we went in. It was a very small office. We went in the office and the kids are pretending to be on the phone because we had 3 desks, and they're pretending to be care coordinators. My oldest daughter's 18 now. She started uni, which is great. And she's studying marketing, but she's still very involved in the business in the sense she's obviously busy with her studies, but she still has input and ideas. And I think that's a proud moment, because it's basically when we started, we said, we've had experience of care which wasn't so great. Let's try and do something positive. We have done that. It's not always been, it's definitely not been easy, but there's been peaks and troughs. But I think the main thing is we've done it as a family as well. So me, my wife, and now my daughter as well. So that's important. And kind of related, I think the confidence that it's given me along the years. I remember having a conversation with Ken early on. I think it was just before training, so the qualification day. And I've always been quite confident, sometimes probably overconfident, which is not great. But I did say to Ken, I really want something that tests me. And he said, "This will test you." I remember it clearly. And it definitely, it's an ongoing thing. And it develops you as a person, I would say. When we started, we had a registered manager. I didn't know anything about the industry. So it was really right at home support and the registered manager that I was leaning on. The registered manager wasn't quite right for our business. And I knew I needed to do something different. And so I registered myself, which was supported by Right at Home, up to the extent that, I have enough resources to support me. So we have a deputy manager, my wife and myself. So I think it's maybe understand that you can, when you look at the from the outset, it looks huge. You're going to have a business and you're going to have employees, you're going to have clients, you're going to have an office, you have to do marketing, you have all these things. But actually, when you tackle it task by task and with the right support, it's actually not that, I wouldn't say it's not that difficult, but I would say it's achievable with the right effort, yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. Vicky, for yourself, what's been your proudest moment and what does Right at Home mean to you?
I think the proudest moment is probably a few months back when we got our CQC result, because it was, for us, it was, we were really, really wanted to get an outstanding on our first rating. We can't pretend we didn't. But to get it in 3 domains, we were just blown away, really. But as I say, it was a complete team effort. Every one of our team has contributed to that, and I think that's what made you feel so proud. Is that it is, we've selected these people as carers. We really look after our staff. We go above and beyond, I think, with our staff as well as our clients. Support them through all sorts of things that they have going on, and I think that kind of all just made it all feel worthwhile when actually they were saying really wonderful things about us. The clients were saying wonderful things about the carers and us, and it was just really wonderful, didn't it? It took us ages to kind of for it to sink in, I think.
Yeah.
Anything different to add, Paul?
Yeah, definitely the CQC inspection report. Also, we won a Community Impact Award at the last owners conference for our Dementia Afternoon Tea Club. That was pretty special for me as well.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Darshan, finishing up with yourself, proudest moment for you, and what does Right at Home mean?
This is a terrible question for me, because I'm not very good at reflecting on really big moments or proud moments. I always struggle with this question, but there was one day where I felt really proud, actually, and it wasn't directly to do with any of my clients or to do with Right at Home, but it's when I interviewed for this position to be on the trustees for this women's charity, and it's helping women who have from Asian backgrounds but maybe migrated to London, like 60s, 70s, 80s, have gone through like domestic abuse or, other forms of abuse. And I had to interview for the position. And it was a very proud moment when they told me that, I'd got the position. And I wouldn't have been, interviewing for something like this if I wasn't in the care sector. And obviously they whilst being interviewed by the chairman or the chairwoman, she asked me a lot about what Right at Home stood for and some of the things that I did with my clients at Right at Home. And I think that experience at Right at Home obviously gave them, the confidence to say, yes, this would be the right person to join our board of trustees. And, they were actually, much to my, disgust, they've made me the treasurer as well now.
Finance background.
Trying to move away from finance. But that was, I remember, coming home, and I told my wife, I said, can you believe it? They just asked me, appointed a male to be on as a trustee. So I thought that was quite a proud thing. And as a result of that, we was there at the charity yesterday where we delivered CPR training to the women there, myself and the manager, in this initiative by the British Heart Foundation. And it's great just being there, directly involved with the members and helping a different community. But being able to serve them and being part of that charity was probably my proudest moment since joining Right at Home.
Amazing, thank you. Last question. In one word, you've got one word each. What does Right at Home stand for?
One word.
One word.
Authentic, I would say.
That's really difficult.
Paul?
Quality.
Oh, I was going to say that.
Has he nicked your word as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Caring.
Fantastic.
High-quality. I know it's not one word, but no, it is. I think that's the first thing that I say to my clients. It's the first thing I say to my clients. What makes Right at Home stand out? High quality.
Brilliant.
Full stop.
2 words.
Hyphen. There's a hyphen.
Thanks, guys. A big thank you to the Right at Home franchisees for sharing their journeys so far. It's clear that running a business can be challenging. However, there are lots of rewards for doing it the right way.